Jax's revenge domain. You know what they say about being careful who you step on when climbing the ladder. Well, sometimes that person you stepped on is the one holding the whole damn thing together. Let me tell you about the night a single slap brought down a $150 million company and how I went from being treated like office furniture to watching my former boss beg investors not to pull their funding. My name's Richard Thompson. I'm 49, been in tech for over 20 years, and I thought I'd seen every kind of workplace drama there was. Boy, was I wrong. The whole mess started on what should have been TechFlow Systems' biggest night. Their 15th anniversary party was supposed to be a celebration of everything we'd built together. I say we because while Steven Martinez had his name on the CEO nameplate, I'd been the one actually running the technical side since day one. 20 years of 80-hour weeks of building systems that never failed, of mentoring junior engineers through 3 recessions and 2 major industry shifts. But that Thursday evening in October, while 200 of Silicon Valley's finest were getting ready to toast our success, I was hunched over my laptop in the corner of the ballroom, watching what could have been the end of everything we'd worked for. 3 hours before the first guest arrived, our security monitoring had flagged unusual activity. Someone had breached our client database. Not just any database, we're talking 500,000 customer records from some of the biggest companies in America. Credit card data, personal information, trade secrets. The kind of breach that makes front-page news and sends executives to federal prison. I'd been tracking the intrusion since 4 p.m., running packet traces and coordinating with what was left of our security team. Most of them had already left for the party, assuming everything was locked down tight. That's the thing about security. It's invisible when it works, and catastrophic when it doesn't. My reading glasses kept fogging up from the stress sweat. Every 30 seconds, another alert would pop up on my screen. The attackers weren't just stealing data, they were probing our entire infrastructure, looking for weaknesses in systems I'd built to last decades. It was like watching someone try to pick apart a puzzle you'd spent years putting together. The irony wasn't lost on me. Downstairs in the hotel ballroom, champagne was flowing and speeches were being made about our unprecedented growth and innovative leadership. Upstairs, I was the only thing standing between TechFlow and a regulatory fine that would dwarf our entire annual revenue. I'd implemented what we call a dead man's switch years earlier, after watching other companies get destroyed by insider attacks or sudden departures of key personnel. If I didn't check in with the system every 6 hours with my biometric signature, it would assume something had gone wrong and start shutting down non-essential services to protect the core data. It was insurance against exactly the kind of crisis we were facing. But Steven had always seen my security measures as paranoid overkill. "Richard, you act like we're running the Pentagon," he'd say during budget meetings. "We're a software company, not the CIA." He preferred spending money on things that looked good in trade magazines. Flashy marketing campaigns, expensive consultants with impressive credentials but no real experience. The attack had started simple enough. A phishing email to one of our junior developers, probably something about a package delivery or a friend request. One click, and suddenly we had malware spreading through our network like cancer. The automated defenses I'd built were holding, but barely. Each wave of the attack was more sophisticated than the last. I'd called Steven 3 times in the past hour, straight to voicemail every time. He was probably downstairs already, working the room, taking credit for innovations he couldn't explain to save his life. That was Steven's specialty, minus being the face of other people's work. The worst part was knowing I could stop this. Given enough time and the right access, I could trace the attack back to its source, plug the holes, and minimize the damage. But that would mean missing the party entirely, and in Steven's world, appearances mattered more than substance. He'd made that clear enough over the years. My phone buzzed with another alert. The attackers had found one of our legacy servers, something we'd been meaning to upgrade for months, but never had the budget for. Of course, they always went for the weakest link first. I adjusted my glasses and dove back into the code, fingers flying across the keyboard. Outside, I could hear the first guests arriving for cocktails. Laughter echoed up from the ballroom, mixing with the soft jazz music Steven had insisted on hiring. "Sets the right tone," he'd said. Professional, but approachable. Professional, but approachable. That pretty much summed up Steven's approach to everything, all style, no substance. He'd inherited enough family money to fund TechFlow in its early days, but he'd never understood the technology that made it work. To him, engineers were just another cost center, interchangeable parts in a machine he thought he could run by reading business books and attending leadership seminars. The breach was getting worse. I could see it spreading through our client management system, touching files that contained some of our biggest customers' most sensitive information. Fortune 500 companies that trusted us with their data because of the reputation I'd spent 2 decades building for bulletproof security. If this got out, when this got out, the regulatory fines alone could hit $75 million. That was before you counted the lawsuits, the lost business, the damage to our reputation. Companies had folded for less. I saved my progress and closed the laptop for a moment, rubbing my eyes through the window. I could see the parking lot filling up with luxury cars. Board members, investors, major clients, tech journalists, all here to celebrate our success, completely unaware that I was upstairs trying to prevent our complete destruction. That's when Jennifer Martinez decided she needed a personal bartender. Jennifer Martinez was our CEO's wife, a former lifestyle blogger who'd married into money and never let anyone forget it. She floated through that ballroom like she owned the place, which technically she did, wearing a dress that probably cost more than most people's annual salaries. Everything about Jennifer screamed, "Look at me," from her perfectly highlighted hair to the diamond necklace that caught the light with every calculated movement. I'd watched her work these events before. She'd position herself near the most important guests, insert herself into conversations about business deals she didn't understand, and generally act like she was the brains behind TechFlow's success. Steven ate it up. To him, Jennifer was proof he'd made it, a beautiful trophy wife who looked good in photos and knew how to charm investors at dinner parties. But Jennifer had one major flaw. She genuinely believed her own hype. She thought being married to the CEO made her some kind of corporate royalty, entitled to treat everyone else like servants. I'd seen her snap at receptionists, demand special treatment from vendors, and generally act like the world revolved around her social calendar. That night, she was holding court with her usual circle of friends, other tech wives who spent their days at spas and their evenings at charity galas. They were clustered around a high-top table near the bar, laughing at something one of them had said about their latest vacation to Tuscany. "Excuse me," she said, tapping her manicured nails on my table. The sound cut through my concentration like fingernails on a chalkboard. "I need you to get me and my friends some of that special reserve wine. The servers are too busy with the important guests." I looked up from my screen where red alerts were still cascading down like a digital waterfall. Jennifer was standing there with her arms crossed, that expression on her face that said she expected immediate compliance. Behind her, her friends were watching with the kind of anticipation you see at a zoo when feeding time approaches. "Ma'am, I'm not with catering," I said, adjusting my glasses and trying to keep my voice level. "I'm handling a critical security incident that could cost us our biggest clients." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Jennifer's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the flush of anger that crept up her neck. Her friends exchanged glances, the kind of looks that said they'd just witnessed someone commit social suicide. "Do you know who I am?" Jennifer's voice carried across half the ballroom, causing nearby conversations to pause. That's when I made my second mistake of the evening. The first was thinking I could handle the security crisis while maintaining any semblance of normal social interaction. The second was treating Jennifer like a rational adult who could understand that some things were more important than her wine preferences. "I know exactly who you are," I said, looking back at my screen where the attack was intensifying. "But right now, I need to focus on keeping this company from losing $75 million in regulatory fines." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the jazz quartet seemed to sense the tension and played softer. Jennifer's friends were no longer hiding their shock. They were staring at me like I'd just announced I was from Mars. "How dare you?" Jennifer hissed through gritted teeth. "You work for my husband. That means you work for me. And I'm telling you to get me wine. Now." I could feel every eye in the vicinity watching this exchange. Board members, major clients, tech journalists, all witnessing what was about to become a very public meltdown. But I'd been dealing with system failures for 20 years, and I knew when something was about to cascade into total disaster. "Ma'am, with respect, I work for the company, not for you personally. And right now, the company needs me to prevent what could be the biggest data breach in our industry's history." That's when she hit me. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. The sound echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot, sharp, violent, and impossible to ignore. My glasses flew off and clattered across the marble floor. For a moment, the entire party stopped, 200 of Silicon Valley's finest were dead silent, watching a 34-year-old trophy wife assault a VP in front of half the tech industry. I sat there, cheek burning, looking at the woman who'd just made the biggest mistake of her privileged life. My laptop was still open, security alerts still flooding the screen, the breach still spreading through our systems like digital cancer. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd just slapped the one person trying to save her husband's company. "Stephen," she shrieked across the room, her voice cracking with rage. "This man just disrespected me in front of everyone. He refused to serve me wine. Fire him. Fire him right now." I watched Stephen Martinez rush over from where he'd been schmoozing with potential investors. I could see the calculation in his eyes before he even reached us: protect his wife's reputation or protect his company. In that moment, watching him choose between his ego and his business, I knew which way this was going to go. Stephen had always been better at playing politics than running a business. He'd inherited the family money that funded TechFlow's startup costs, but he'd never understood the technology that made it work. To him, engineering was just a necessary evil, something you paid other people to worry about while you focused on the big picture stuff like market positioning and strategic partnerships. "Richard, what the hell happened here?" Stephen's voice had that edge he used when he wanted to sound authoritative in front of an audience. "Your wife demanded I serve drinks while I'm preventing a massive data breach. I said picking up my glasses and checking them for damage. The frames were bent, but they'd survive. I explained I wasn't catering staff and that I was dealing with a security emergency. That's not the point." Jennifer was practically vibrating with rage, her careful composure completely shattered. "He was rude to me, insubordinate. I want him gone tonight." Stephen looked around the room. Important investors were watching. Board members were murmuring among themselves. Tech journalists were probably already composing their headlines. His wife had just made a very public scene, and in his world, image trumped everything else, including the security of 500,000 customer records. I could see him weighing his options: stand up for his most senior engineer, the guy who'd built every critical system in the company, or appease his wife and maintain the facade that she was somehow important to TechFlow's operations. "Richard," he said finally, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom, "clean out your office. You're terminated effective immediately. 20 years. 2 decades of 80-hour weeks, of building systems that ran flawlessly, of mentoring junior engineers and pulling the company through 3 major recessions and 2 complete technology shifts. All of it ended because a spoiled brat couldn't handle being told no by someone she considered beneath her social status." I saved my work, closed the laptop, and stood up. The security alerts were still coming through on my phone, urgent notifications that the breach was spreading into our customer management databases. In about 6 hours, when the automated monitoring systems I'd built realized I was no longer responding to alerts, they'd start shutting down non-essential services to protect the core data. It was a dead man's switch I'd implemented years ago after watching other companies get destroyed by insider attacks and sudden departures of key personnel. "Stephen," I said, looking him in the eye one last time, "you might want to have someone look at the security incident I was working on. You've got about 6 hours before the system starts protecting itself, and maybe 12 before the federal regulators start asking some very uncomfortable questions." But he'd already turned away, arm around his wife, accepting congratulations from nearby investors for handling a difficult employee situation with such decisive leadership. I could hear Jennifer explaining to her friends how she'd just taught some insubordinate worker a lesson about respect. I walked out of that ballroom knowing 3 things. Stephen Martinez had no idea what I actually did for his company. Jennifer Martinez had no idea what she'd just cost them. And in 18 months, I'd probably be sitting in the chair Stephen was about to lose. The next morning came faster than Stephen expected. I was at home, enjoying my first real breakfast in months, when my phone started buzzing with calls from TechFlow's main number. I let them go to voicemail while I read the news and planned my next move. By 7 a.m., TechFlow's systems had started their automated lockdown sequence. Key servers went into protection mode. Customer portals began displaying maintenance messages. Payment processing ground to a halt. The irony was beautiful. The security measures I'd built to protect the company from external threats were now protecting it from its own leadership. My former team was probably in full panic mode by now. These were good engineers, smart people I'd hired and trained myself, but none of them had the administrative access to override the lockdown. That required my biometric signature, Something Stephen had just forfeited when he decided his wife's ego was more important than his company's survival. The first call came at 8:15 a.m. Stephen, of course, Richard, thank God. Listen, we've got some kind of system malfunction. Nothing's working properly. Can you walk us through fixing this? I took a sip of coffee and watched the morning news. Stephen, I don't work for TechFlow anymore. Remember, you fired me last night. Come on, Richard. Don't be petty about this. We can work something out. Maybe we overreacted last night. Jennifer was just stressed about the party. Petty. 20 years of dedication, and he thought I was being petty. The system isn't malfunctioning, Stephen. It's protecting itself. When I didn't check in this morning with my biometric signature, the automated protocols assumed something had happened to me. Security breach, attack, whatever. So it locked everything down until the threat could be assessed. There was a long pause on his end. I could practically hear the wheels turning as he tried to process what I was telling him. So just unlock it, check in, or whatever you need to do. I can't do that, Stephen. I'd need administrative access to the building, access to my office systems, and authorization from the CEO to override a security lockdown. You fired me last night, remember? Had security escort me out? The second call came at 10:30 a.m., this time offering me a 20% raise to come back and fix this little technical issue. By noon, he was offering 50% and a formal apology from Jennifer. By 2 p.m., he was begging, but I'd already spent the morning making other calls. To Mike Rogers, our former director of network operations, who'd left TechFlow 6 months earlier when Stephen refused to approve his department's budget increase. To Sarah Rodriguez, our best database architect, who'd been passed over for promotion 3 times because Stephen preferred hiring fresh talent with impressive resumes and no real experience. To Tom Bradley, our security specialist, who'd been arguing for months that we needed to upgrade our legacy systems. Each conversation went the same way. They were frustrated, undervalued, and ready for something better. By the end of the day, I had commitments from 5 of TechFlow's most critical engineers to join me in starting something new. The real damage started showing up in the second week. TechFlow's biggest client, Meridian Financial, tried to process their monthly payment batch and couldn't access their account portal. When they called for support, they were told it was a temporary technical difficulty that would be resolved soon. Meridian's CTO, Janet Walsh, had worked with me directly on their implementation 3 years earlier. She knew I'd built their integration personally, had my direct number, and wasn't the kind of person to accept vague excuses about technical difficulties. Richard? Janet Walsh at Meridian. What's going on with your systems? Our entire accounting department is dead in the water. Janet, I don't work for TechFlow anymore. Stephen fired me 2 weeks ago. The silence on her end lasted almost 30 seconds. He fired you, Richard. You built our entire integration. You're the only person there who understands how our systems connect. I tried to tell him that during the exit interview, but he seemed more concerned about making sure I returned my parking pass. Jeanette hung up, and within 2 hours, Meridian had submitted a formal notice of contract termination. They cited concerns about TechFlow's ability to maintain critical services following the departure of key personnel. 3 more clients followed Meridian's lead within the week. Word travels fast in the tech industry, especially when it involves the sudden departure of senior technical staff during a crisis. The story got embellished with each retelling, but the core facts remained the same. TechFlow's CEO had fired his head of engineering during a security incident because his wife didn't like being told no. By month 3, the SEC had opened a formal investigation into TechFlow's data handling practices. Someone had leaked details about the original breach to a tech journalist, along with information about how it was handled. The story painted a picture of a company more concerned with image than security, led by executives who prioritized social gatherings over protecting customer data. The class action lawsuit hit TechFlow 6 weeks after I walked out of that ballroom. Turns out, firing your head of security during an active data breach doesn't look good to federal regulators or the customers whose information got compromised. The lawyers had a field day with that timeline. Security incident detected, key personnel terminated, systems locked down, customer data exposed. It read like a textbook case of corporate negligence. Stephen tried damage control, hiring expensive PR firms and crisis management consultants. But you can't spin away the basic facts. 500,000 customer records had been accessed by unknown parties, The company's security infrastructure had been deliberately crippled by management decisions, and the person most qualified to assess the damage had been fired for refusing to serve wine. The irony kept getting richer. Jennifer's social media followers started connecting the dots between her lifestyle blog posts about the anniversary party and news reports about the data breach. Her carefully curated image as a successful tech executive's wife crumbled when screenshots of her gloating about putting an employee in his place started circulating online. Sponsors dropped her blog. Her influencer friends distanced themselves. The woman who'd built her identity around being married to success suddenly found herself married to scandal. Meanwhile, I'd been busy building Thompson systems. We started in my garage, just like the Silicon Valley cliché, but with 20 years of experience and a clear vision of what we wanted to create. Within 30 days, we had our first major contract with Meridian Financial, who needed someone to rebuild their entire integration after TechFlow systems became unreliable. Word spread quickly through our professional networks. Companies that had worked with me at TechFlow started reaching out, curious about our services. They weren't just looking for technical solutions. They wanted to work with people who understood that trust is the foundation of any business relationship. Mike Rogers became our Chief Technology Officer. Sarah Rodriguez took over database architecture. Tom Bradley built our security division. We operated as partners, not as a hierarchy where one person's ego could override everyone else's expertise. Every major decision was made by consensus among people who actually understood the technical implications. By month 6, Thompson Systems had 25 employees and contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. We'd implemented security protocols that made my old dead man switch look primitive. Our systems were built to scale, to adapt, and most importantly, to survive the kind of leadership failures that had destroyed TechFlow. The final domino fell in month 14. TechFlow's board of directors, facing lawsuits totaling $300 million in regulatory fines that would bankrupt the company, voted to remove Stephen as CEO. The company that had once employed 400 people was down to fewer than 50, mostly lawyers and accountants trying to salvage whatever value remained from the intellectual property I'd spent 2 decades creating. Stephen called me one last time during the bankruptcy proceedings. His voice was different, smaller, defeated, stripped of the artificial confidence that had carried him through so many board meetings and investor presentations. "Richard, I know this sounds crazy, but we're liquidating assets to pay the settlement. The building, the equipment, even the patent portfolio. I thought, maybe you'd be interested in making an offer on some of it." I was sitting in what used to be his corner office, having purchased the building at auction 3 weeks earlier. Thompson Systems had grown to 120 employees, and we needed more space for the client services division we were launching. "Actually, Stephen, I already bought the building. And most of the equipment. The patents, too, at least the ones I invented." Turns out bankruptcy auctions are a great way to acquire assets at reasonable prices. The silence on his end stretched for almost a minute. "You bought our building?" "I bought your former building. It's Thompson Systems headquarters now. Same address, different company. One that understands the value of treating people with respect." Stephen ended up taking a project management job at a competitor, making about 60% of what he used to pay junior developers. Jennifer got a job at a real estate agency. Her lifestyle blog reduced to maybe 200 followers who mostly followed her for the entertainment value of watching a former socialite try to relate to normal working people. But the real victory wasn't in their downfall. It was in what we'd built to replace what they'd destroyed. Thompson Systems became the kind of company I'd always wished TechFlow could be. We hired based on competence, not credentials. We promoted based on results, not politics. We built systems designed to outlast any individual personality or ego. Most importantly, we created a culture where a 49-year-old engineer with reading glasses and 2 decades of experience would never have to worry about being disrespected by someone who confused authority with wisdom. These days, when young engineers join our team, I tell them Thompson's first rule: never let anyone treat you like furniture, because the day they do, they've just told you exactly how replaceable they think they are. And in tech, the people who build the systems usually outlast the people who just manage them. 6 months ago, I ran into Jennifer at a coffee shop downtown. She was showing properties to a young couple, trying to explain why a condo in an up-and-coming neighborhood was a good investment. She saw me and nodded politely, but there was no recognition in her eyes of the connection between that night at the anniversary party and her current circumstances. Maybe that's for the best. Some people never learn that actions have consequences, that treating others with dignity isn't just good manners, it's good business. Jennifer learned the hard way that when you slap someone, you'd better make sure they're not the person holding your world together. Stephen learned that choosing your wife's ego over your company's survival is a decision you only get to make once. And I learned that sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you turns out to be exactly what you needed to build something better. Because you never know which quiet guy in the corner is actually the foundation your whole empire is built on. And you definitely don't want to find out by slapping him at your anniversary party. That's the thing about respect. It's not something you can demand or buy or inherit. You earn it by treating others the way you'd want to be treated, and you keep it by never forgetting that everyone you work with is a human being with dignity, skills, and value. The moment you forget that, you've started the countdown to your own downfall. And sometimes, that countdown starts with a single slap. The most expensive lesson in corporate history isn't measured in dollars lost, but in the moment you realize that real power belongs to those who create value, not those who simply claim credit for it. When you mistake quiet competence for weakness and treat expertise like servitude, you've just handed the keys of your kingdom to someone who knows exactly how much those keys are worth.